Well, hi there and welcome back to InsideTracks.co.uk, the website, newsletter and YouTube channel that tries to help you trade smarter. Going back to some basics, I've had a few emails and texts and tweets asking me if I could really go through the basics of Betfair trading. And so I've thought I'd do one which says the basics you must know before you start to trade on Betfair. I think it's important that these basics are known because I think people too often feel that trading on Betfair is fairly straightforward. Jump into it and can make some fairly dramatic mistakes without really even knowing that they're doing it, because you learn a lot just by doing. So I was going to go through it. The first part of this will be obviously the very straightforward first thing you do when you're going to trade on Betfair is going to sign up, aren't you? Well, don't for goodness sakes sign up just like that, because you'll be missing out on something, and that's the free offer. The free offer that you can see here clearly says new customers only. So you only get one chance at some of these free offers, and they can be quite good. For instance, a free offer being run at the moment is, and for new customers only, is place £10 bets and receive £20 in free bets. So if you do that 5 times, it's £100 in free bets you can have, which basically you wouldn't have if you jumped in and just signed up and got on with it. Another one is a £20 risk-free bet, and in the past, Betfair has run a 0% commission on up to £500 worth of bets, which is worth a reasonable amount. So basically, you can actually get some very, very good first offers for first-time customers. So don't sign up without looking for the offer and doing and getting the best offer you see on show for you. So that's the first one. That's very straightforward. That's just saved you perhaps £100, just that one tip alone. So next, we're going to look at the concept of backing and laying on the exchange. This is why Betfair exists, because you can actually back a horse on the exchange and lay a horse on the exchange. I'm just going to go through that with you in a minute, but I'll try and answer the questions while I'm doing it, which is, why do I get better odds on Betfair? Most people don't realize that you do always, pretty much 95% of the time, get better odds on Betfair. And how does Betfair make its money versus traditional bookmakers? Because they're not a traditional bookmaker. So what we're going to do now is actually look at that, and I'm going to try and answer those questions. So here we are, actually on the Betfair site, and this is actually the next race at Sedgefield. And what we're supposed to be talking about now is the concept of backing and laying on Betfair. We're not far from the off, so it's moving quite fast. But what you can see is that if we want to back any of these horses, so let's say Wind of Hope, and we can see here the square with the blue. I can back that horse if I want to. It's £95, £87. You can see the number underneath, £46, £100. So I can back this horse at 6.2, and there's money there. Now there's 6.4, so it's moving around a bit quickly because we're in the last 2 minutes. I might actually move to a different one, actually, because it's moving a bit too quickly and for us to explain this. So here we have Barrier Peaks. It's the favourite in the 435 at Chepstow. And if I want to, I can back this Barrier Peaks, this favourite, if I think it's going to win, at 2.82. So I can do that. Or if I want to, I can lay this horse at 2.84. A slight difference between the two prices, as you can see, a 0.02. But the fact is, I am allowed by Betfair Exchange to lay this horse. So if I wanted to back this horse, it'd be like backing any horse with any bookmaker. So I'll click that on 2.82. Now it's moved to. So 2.82, here's the odds, 2.82. There's my stake, which is my automatic stake that I have up at the moment. And my profit will be, actually, this is not 2.8 to 1, it's 1.8 to 1. So these numbers that's 15 to 8. It's just slightly under 2 to 1. And as you move up there, 3 will be 2 to 1, and move down here to 2.5. That's 6 to 4. So I'm at 15 to 8. So if I went to a bookmaker on course and I said, I'll have £10 on barrier peaks, and he was willing to give me 15 to 8, then my profit would be something of this order, £18.20, and I get my £10 back. So that's where the 2.82 comes in, because how Betfair does it, it tells you what to multiply by to get to the overall amount you'll get back. So if you multiply 10 by 2.82, you will get 28.20 back, which is £18.20 profit and your £10 stake, which lots of people forget about when they're betting. So there you go. That's backing. That's just like a normal bookmaker, nothing more, nothing less. My liability, as with a normal bookmaker, is my stake. My stake is my liability. I give the bookmaker £10 before the race. He gives me a little ticket that tells me that I've got 18.20 coming back to me as profit. If I lose, what do I lose? I lose my £10. I don't get my £10 back, do I? That's where I lose. And so it's the same thing with Betfair. It tells you what your liability is. What is the liability you have on this race? It's your £10. Now let's do something different. We'll cancel that and we'll go for laying it. So we don't think it's going to win. And we're going to go put £10 on again. Okay, so that's my stake, is £10. But my liability this time is ultimately I'm the bookmaker. So I'm the bookmaker. Now put yourself in the bookmaker's shoes. I've just come to you. You're the punter. I give the bookmaker £10. He gives me a little ticket. Says if you win, you get 18.40. So the bookmaker is saying I'm liable for that 18.40 if it wins. Now what you're doing is you're being the bookmaker. So you're taking £10 off somebody, someone else on Betfair Exchange. You're taking that £10 from, and your liability is that if the horse wins, you owe that other punter on Betfair £18.40. So you can be the bookmaker or you can be the punter. You can be both. That's what the exchange does for you. Now, why can I was going to answer the question, why can Betfair offer better prices than a normal bookmaker? 95% of the time they give a better price. And why do they do that? Because all they're trying to do is match up. It's an exchange. They're matching up somebody who's prepared to offer the horse for backing. So that when I do a lay bet at 2.84, this £10, if I placed that bet now, this £10 would come up in this slot here. It means there's £10 there for you guys to bet on, because I'm prepared to lay it at that odds. And equally, someone can put a bet on at 2.84, or maybe you want to say, look, I want to bet at 2.88. Then they'd be saying, come on, guys, I'm prepared to lay this, give you a lay bet at 2.88. So it matches up those people who want to back the horse at that price with those who want to lay the horse at that price. And therefore, what they're doing is they're trying to always make this number here and this number here as close to 100% as possible, which means that, if this was a perfect, absolutely perfect market, that would be 100 and that would be 100. It never will be, because this is always going to be slightly less than 100, and this is always going to be slightly more than 100, because there's always slightly more money being wanted to be backed than there is wanted to be laid. But there's a very small percentage gap, and it's always trying to work its way up and work its way down. So as money comes into the marketplace, these are always just going down slightly, but they'll come back up. So yeah, so you saw that going down to 100.9. Now it's 101.4. This will now go up to 99.5 next time we see it, probably. And that's the way it works. It just sort of moves around and tries to stay in stability. that's the way the market matches itself and doesn't wander out of kilter. Because if you're not careful, if this was a coin toss and each one had the same chance of winning, i.e. it was evens, then this price should be 2. If it was a back and a lay, then you'd want the 2 outcomes to be absolutely in sync. And if you're not careful, as money comes in, the price goes up on one. So say lots of money came in on heads. You don't want heads to be now 6-4 because at the end of 4-5, if a lot of money came in for heads, it would shorten. You'd go into 4-5. That would mean that tails would have to go out to get the market into sync. So that would go out to 5-4, and then suddenly people go, oh, great price for tails. It should be even money. That's a great price. It's great value. I'm going to bet on the 5-4. So money comes in for tails. So heads goes back out, and it should therefore stay in sync at evens. And that's what the market's always trying to do here. It comes up, it comes down. That goes up to 99.5. This goes up down to 100.5, and so on. And it's trying to keep itself in sync. So there's very little margin there because it's always trying to keep itself in sync. As bookmakers, they make their money out of giving you prices that don't add up to 100%. So if you had a bookmaker and you had 2 outcomes, 2 evenly matched horses who should be evens, therefore as horses, they will never give you near to 100%. They will always take their profit from there. So they'll be giving you 4-5 on both outcomes, which should be evens. So they're taking their money out on the price. Betfair though does take 5%. So you've got to remember that. So even though you're getting a better price on the horse than on a traditional bookmaker, you will pay 5% on profits on the profits you make, unless you are betting a lot, in which case your commission comes down. And as you become a professional on this, you'll be betting a lot of money, and therefore your commission will come down. But 5% is what you should normally pay. So there's a different way in which the bookmakers make their money, and therefore a different way in which they price up the market. So don't forget the 5%, because it's there and it's real. So if you were getting evens on 2 horses, then if you won, you'll be paying 5% on your winnings. Okay. So we've answered the questions. What's the concept of backing and laying? Why do I get better odds on Betfair? And how does Betfair make its money versus traditional bookmakers? Next is how to use the Betfair screen. How do I change my default bet? As you saw, I have a default bet of £10. And how do I get a live feed on races? And I'll show you a few other bits and pieces on how to use the Betfair screen. So let's use the Betfair screen. Let's see how this is then. Well, up here is all the account details. You'll have checked in. You can go and check your profit and loss and all the other different things you want to do, account statements, etc. You can deposit money. That's the amount in my Betfair account at the moment. I've got a bonus coming on it, etc. And you can change around. I do racing, so I don't bother with the others. On the left-hand side, you've got all the races. We're currently still on the 435 at Chepstow, with Barrier Peaks being the favourite. And on this, we can see certain things. I was talking about the numbers underneath each of the prices. That's the amount of money available at that price that you can bet on. So if I wanted to do 2.9, I'd have 6,704. So I could get that kind of money onto a bet at 2.9. Or I could, if I was quick enough. And again, this is getting close within 10 minutes of the race. What you'll notice is the matched money here. So we can see 49,000, and it's going up at about 100, 200 pounds a kind of second. It's refreshing itself pretty rapidly. You can change how often it refreshes itself. You can refresh it. I like to have it refreshing as quickly as possible, but you can change that, no problem. And then you've got a settings button here where you can set things like the lay odds and how that works, the depth of the market you can change. You can do profit and loss. You can do all sorts of different things. On the betting side, you can change your bet view. So I do it at £2 or so, but you can do it differently in there. You can do in-play bet persistence. So do you want to keep your bet going into play? There's all sorts of different things. The default betting, you can edit those. So I'm at £10, you do £20, you can do £30, or you can do less. A lot of people like to start at £2. So use the settings, for the cash out as well, cash out on market view. So I like to have it there ready so I can cash out if I want to. And if I'm not using software, I'm doing this on the main screen because I'm assuming that you guys are new to trading on Betfair. There'll be other tutorials and YouTube channels and so on, and articles about Betfair software, and which is the best. But I'm not going into that in this particular YouTube video. So what we see is that we have all sorts of different ways in which we can read this screen. Once we get to within 5 minutes, so the reason why I'm still on this and it's getting close to the time, it's 16:27. When it gets to within 5 minutes, so when that gets to 16:30, you can click on this live stream, and by clicking on the live stream, you will then open a different window, a smaller window, and then you get the actual live racing, and it's up to the minute, so there is no delay on it. So it's quite a useful thing, because when you look at ITV or any of the other channels, there's always a significant delay. I've known people come to trade on Betfair, and the first thing they do is to start trading and looking at ITV and not realizing that they're 5 seconds behind everybody else. So they're actually betting with a 5-second disadvantage, which is major, and can kill your bet. And you can be betting on something you think is happening when in fact everybody knows the horse is fallen or something. So don't fall into that one, please. The next thing to do is to talk about all the different ways in which you can back a horse. So you can do it each way. I very rarely do each way. You can do it to be placed. That's normally 3 places. You can do 3 places on less than 8 horses. That's another feature of Betfair, which is quite useful. Normally, if you talk about each way, they say, well, if it's less than 8 horses, you only get the first 2, blah, 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 blah. And then some bookmakers will give you top 3, and some will give you top 5, and blah, blah, blah. Well, Betfair is very straightforward. If you will get a price on top 3, you get a price on top 2, you get a price on top 4. You can do all sorts of matches. They give you different matches and different prices. You can do forecasts and so on. So always good to see what these are doing. And sometimes when you have a very, very short favorite, it's quite often nice to be able to say, well, if I've got a very, very short favorite, I can sometimes see some really good value in doing a top 4. So on the top 4 I've done here, there isn't great value to be had, to be frank, because all of them are really pretty short in terms of backing. But I would say that at the prices, barrier peaks at 1.23 on a top 4 place is probably a pretty good price if you're prepared to accept very low pricing. Some people do, some people don't, but I would say 1.2, 1.3 for a hot favorite in a race like this is a pretty good price and reasonable value. So you can sometimes get quite good place value, even though it looks like a very short odds. It's, in my opinion, not a bad price for a horse that should come in the top 2, let alone the top 4. So you have different ways in which you can do that. Those things are at the top there as well. And then let's just have a quick look at here. We can show you the charts using these. I'll come into charting next time, so I'm not going to press on that now. Charting comes in there, and you can also get things like the time form form coming through. Even though they're not showing that on this, you can get time form. I'll show you that in a minute as well. Okay, so we've read it. We can see that now. One thing I wanted to show you actually was the amount of money coming through now. Before it was going up by about 100. Now you can see it's going up by 200, 1,000, 200, 300. So you can see that the amount of money coming in is going up quite rapidly. And we're now into the last 5 minutes. And this is one of the things you have to be very, very clear about, is that there's normally about £300,000 goes on a horse race of this sort of nature. And we've got 4 minutes to go, and we're only at 96. So you can see that 75% of the money is going to go onto this, maybe not quite that much, 65% of the money that's going to go onto this race is going to go onto this race in the last 5 minutes. And about 80% goes on in the last 10 minutes. So be very careful that you read prices as well, because prices that move in the last 5 minutes are far more important than a price that moves, say, in the morning before this morning. Because at the end of the day, the price movement this morning was based on a £100 bet or £200 bet. This is going up, as you can see, very rapidly now, £1,000 a time. So movement in prices now are about big money coming in. £3,000–4,000 going on per couple of seconds. You can see so £392, £730. That's gone. So we're talking about hundreds of pounds being bet on a horse and being taken, and that's moving the price now, whereas it was tens of pounds back this morning that was moving a horse a similar amount. So be very careful about that. And what I was going to show you finally was you can open a separate screen. I'm not sure whether you can see that. I'm hoping you can, but there's a separate screen now opened with the live horse racing. I think you can hear that now. So I've just muted that, and I will stop that. But basically, click that button within 5 minutes of the race, and what you'll see is that the actual live feed from Betfair, which is in time. You can see that when we started on this race, barrier peaks was at 2.9, yeah, and you can see now that the money's coming in from the professionals, and that means that barrier peaks now gone out to 3.5, which is a significant drifting of the horse, which you should take into account, as opposed to other horses that have shortened quite radically. And yeah, we're 2 minutes away from the race, and we're at 180,000. That's going to go up by another 100,000 before they actually get let off. So this money is coming in really thick and fast now. Okay, we're going to stop there for a moment. I'm going to pause it, and then we'll start again, looking at the next item that you should be aware of. So we've just been through how to use the Betfair screen. How do I change the size of my default bet? You've seen that. How do I get live feed, etc. on the race? So you've seen that as well. Now, the final thing in really sort of the basics that you must be aware of is how do I get the charts for each horse, and what do they mean? How do I use them? You know, there's questions that I will be answering for you. Is, you know, what's an over and underweighted horse in the market? What is meant by support levels and betting corridors, and what's meant by breakout. So we'll be covering those now. Okay, so now we're going to look at how to use charts. So the charts are here at the side, and if you click on that, you'll get the chart for what's going on. And now let's just explain what's on this chart. Okay, so what's on this chart? Let's start from the top. There's the list of runners there, so you can change from one to the other without a problem, and it will just bring up the new chart for whatever horse you're doing. Now, if you use software, this is quite useful, where software becomes very interesting because you can show 3 or 4 horses on a screen, and you can see all the movements in prices, one versus the other, which is actually extremely useful. So having not have that, if you don't have the software, then you won't have it maybe for a while because you don't want to invest in the cost of software. But if you are going to do this, you'll need software to give you that advantage. Now, what do we see on this market so far? The total market, there's been 40,000 invested or invested matched. It says matched. So matched on this race so far is 40,000. As we said, we'll come up to the race, and in the last 10 minutes we'll get 80% of the money. In the last 5 minutes we'll get about 65% of the money come through. So what we see is the effect of maybe an eighth of the money, but that eighth of the money, we see that out of that 40,000, 23,000, nearly 24,000 has been on this selection, Oscar's leader. So Oscar's leader has 25,000 now of the 42,000 has been placed on the race, placed on it. Now, is that a lot of money for it? Well, how we work that out is that disproportionately large amount of money for this selection? Well, the selection is 2.2 or so on the marketplace. So if we multiply the 25 by 2.2, we get 50 and a bit, 55 in fact. So we get 55,000, and actually the total on the market is 42. So this horse we would consider to have more money put on it than it necessarily should for the odds. So we call it an overweighted horse. That means there's more interest in this horse in terms of the amount of money that's been put on it than you would normally expect for a horse of this price. So this is an overweighted horse. And actually what we can see is here's all the money that's gone on down the bottom here, these little spikes of money. That spike there is just under £750. And you saw that money came on at this price here, which was what, just between 2.25 and 2.0. So about 2.1, £750 came in and started pushing the price back out. So there seems to be, and this is where we start talking about corridors. There seems to be a point that the horse gets to in a price, which is around about 2.1, and we're currently at 2.18, where someone's prepared, money's prepared to come into the market and push it back out, and it's happened a couple of times. We can see here. So there's what we call a support level. A support level for laying the horse is around 2.1, and a support level for backing the horse appears to be happening around about 2.5. Okay, somewhere in the 2.5. So in between 2.1 and 2.5, we're forgetting this bit because that's just a few quid at the beginning. That's what, 100, 200 pounds down there. So that's not worth really talking about. These numbers are not really worth talking about. But since reasonable money started coming in, this horse is trading between 2.1 and 2.5. And we'll see that from this particular part of the chart, which shows you how much money has been matched. Here we are, we're just starting in. So the lowest point we've had is 2.12. As you can see, £255 has been traded and matched at 2.12. Okay, so that's the amount that's been matched here. So we go down this particular column called traded, and we'll see that if we look for the highest number, it's £3,000 at 2.24. And it was a reasonably decent one here, 742 at 2.44. And actually 2.52 had 446 and 2.5 had 824. So there's been a reasonable amount of money up this end of the chart, but we can see that actually that hasn't happened for a while. The last time we saw a peak was at 2.3, and we're down at 2.18 or 2.2 now. So, so basically, we are now talking about a narrower corridor of backing between something like 2.3 something, somewhere in here, just about this £1,000 mark, 2.36, and this 2.22 sort of level. So that's what we mean by corridors. And if you were going to back this horse, you would look well, you're going to do something like trading this horse, like a scalping or something like that. You would say that if it goes down to 2.12, you would be looking for money to come in to lay it and push it back out. So you should be laying at that point. And if you saw it go up beyond 2.36, you should see money coming in to back it, and so you should be taking the 2.36 as a back. So those are the limits, and normally you'd be happy to scalp in this area here of 2.18 to 2.3, to 2.28 is what I would say you'd be happy to be scalping in there. Now, I said so this is the corridors, and you're looking for these corridors of trading. So there's the corridor we're currently trading in. That was the corridor. It was a wider corridor that we were trading in earlier, but it was less money. And as we move forward, we'll see that more money will come in. Now, what we're looking for next is what we call the breakout. And a breakout with this particular horse, Oscar's leader, would be if it breaks past the 2.12. So as soon as we start seeing money being placed on the horse at 2.1, then we're saying, actually, that's a breakout. That's a breakout, and what happens in a breakout is actually that continues down that way. So that's an opportunity for us to trade, because we see the breakout, we see the 2.1, we see the 2.08, we say, all right, okay, now that has to go and find a new level where because the money that would normally come at 2.12 to push it up isn't coming. So when will that money come next to start pushing it back out? When's the next point when there'll be a support level that says, no, that's too short a price. Now it's value for me to lay the horse. So what you'd expect is it would start going in like that, go down and go down until someone says, nope, that's too low, and I'm now going to put some money into the marketplace and push that back out. And that's when, so we can start backing it as we see the breakout here, wait for it to hit its new support level, and then lay it, and we'll make a nice little 1 point gain, which is a decent little trade. So that's the breakout, how to trade a breakout. And we've talked about the corridors, and that's how to trade a scalp, is to understand the corridors and back at the bottom, back at the top, sorry, of the corridor, and lay at the bottom, and hope that little up and down keeps going as long as possible, because that's how scalping, you can make decent money on scalping. So these are the charts. We know that this is an overweighted horse, and therefore it's more important. It will move slower because it's got more money being placed on it at any one time. So these changes in price with overweighted horse will happen slower. If we look at an underweighted horse now, so let's try and find a decently underweighted horse. So at 5 nuts, that's about right. That's 5 times 8 is 40. 40 and plus a bit, so it's only mildly underweighted. Let's see whether there's a different one here. 8 times 3 is 24, so it's very, very underweighted. And so it's not going to take very much money to keep pushing this horse out. But equally, this horse isn't going to take much money to bring it back in again. So when you're, if you are going to, for instance, scalp this horse, and you think, oh yeah, it's going out, so I'm going to keep laying it. If you're not careful, a couple of £100 will come in, and down it will go, and you'll be left with quite a large loss. So be careful of those horses that are underweighted, because their price can move quite rapidly, on very small money, and therefore when you're doing something like a scalp, you can actually wind up being left high and dry. So I'm not going to go into it more than that, because I think that's plenty for anyone who's just starting. I'll just come back and do a roundup. So what you must know is how to get your offer as a new customer. Don't forget that. Why is the exchange there, and why can you get better odds? And it's a backing and laying possibility, as opposed to a traditional bookmaker who will only allow you to back a horse, and they take their money by not giving you very good prices. How to use Betfair Screen. Well, I've shown you how to change the size of your bet, how to get the live feed, etc. So you can, and how to change your settings and so on, and then how to get charts and what they mean, so you understand what's an overweighted horse, why is that important, what's an underweighted horse, why is that important, and what's meant by support levels and betting corridors. And then, of course, I've shown you that if you know where the breakout is going to occur, you can make a little bit of money, because when a price breaks out from its corridor, it has to find a new level, and you can make some money by letting the market try and find that level, and using your knowledge to back a horse at the top, at the top of the, as soon as the breakout starts, and then laying it as soon as you see the support coming back in for that horse. So hopefully that's been quite useful. My advice to anybody starting is to take it very slow, to use minimal stakes. I'd set my stakes certainly no more than £2, and I don't think you can go any less than £2. So don't go over the £2 to start with. Use your money, and say if you've got say £50 in your account, then you have to be prepared that you're going to do things wrong, and that £50 might go elsewhere. But equally, learn from your mistakes. And finally, I'd say once you've had a little bit of practice, and you've chosen the strategy you want, like the scalping strategy, or looking for breakouts, and doing that as a strategy, once you've got used to doing them and getting used to seeing those things happening, then think hard about using software. Software can be very useful, but it can also be very confusing. And if you aren't used to what you see on Betfair Screen, then you will get confused by software. So don't jump into software because you think, oh, I'm going to be a professional, because it doesn't work that way. It can often lead you down a false path, and you can wind up making considerable mistakes because you're not used to using the software, or you're not used to how it works. Use the cash out feature. Cash out feature is quite useful. It helps you to take profits that you've made from scalping, or backing a breakout, or whatever you want to, what strategy you want to do. When you've made a profit on one horse, you can then use the cash out to spread the profit across the other horses, so that you can win. So cashing out is quite a good feature, which I didn't go into, but you'll see it if you click on the cash out button in your settings. That allows you to take your profit no matter what horse wins. And so if you've managed to scalp a horse and you've got a £5 profit on a horse, then you can cash out, and if it was 5-1, say you get £1, no matter which horse won. So it's quite useful as well. Anyway, there's lots of other videos in the Inside Tracks YouTube site, and there's also the website that you can go to. If you like this video, like it and subscribe. You can also sign up to the newsletter, which is free of charge, and gives you some insights into horses that might be good for different strategies, for your different trading strategies. So you can get some inside knowledge from me on what might work and what might not work for different strategies. Okay, Best of luck. See you next time.